Hi, everyone. It's Lynn from Devine Central, and I'm here with video number 14 in my series on reading professionally at fairs and festivals. Now, today I want to talk to you about being prepared to do the psychic fairs. If you are new, I would tell you to take it off Broadway. And what does that mean? Well, it means that the biggest production companies in New York, when they have a new musical or a new play, they will take it to an off Broadway event to perfect it. They want to make sure that it's running smooth. They want to make sure that their technicals are in place. And I recommend that you do the same thing. And I'm going to give you a few ideas today about where you can practice and get ready and hone your skill so that you'll be prepared for the shows. Now, here are my issues. First place, people at psychic fairs tend to be, they have higher expectations of us than you would at, say, an impulse buy from someone at a farmer's market or at some small craft show or event. And so it's easier to practice there because if you're going to need some more better work there than, at the shows where more is being expected. But my other issue is I have seen people not ready for prime time come into these psychic fairs, charge $10 for a reading, and pull out the little white book and read from the book. Now, the problem is if they get 4 or 5 readings that day or out of those first events, it's it's like a false validation. They think they're doing great and they don't make any effort to improve themselves. Therefore, you have somebody doing shows that's just a mediocre reader that isn't making any effort because they don't realize they need to. So I think that's why it's really important to get out and practice first and make sure that you got your timings down and that you know what spread's going to work best for you, what deck of cards is going to work best for you, and all that stuff. So when I decided that I needed to get out and get some practice, I thought that the less stressful way to do it would be to read for tips. And so I devised this 3x5 postcard that I made up for restaurants and retail that I could take and drop off at various locations to the owners. And it was, it's a cute little card. I'll put it up here for you to see. And my first gig came from Kay's flower shop a few blocks from my house. Now, she was very kind. She let me set up, didn't charge me anything, let me put on that big sandwich board sign out in front of her store. And it was fun. I didn't get a lot of business. The one thing I learned was if you're going to do retail, you got to be someplace where there's a lot of foot traffic. And there certainly wasn't a lot in her shop, but hey, at least that's where I got my first ratings. So here's the places that I recommend. Okay. First and foremost, high-end restaurants. Love them. They typically don't have a lot of children because of the price point of the food. They have clientele that don't mind spending money and gives them something to distract them from the fact that they have to wait for their table. And that's good for the business owner. It's good for you and it's good for the client. And I don't mean just high-end restaurants, although that's my favorite, but you could go into, let's say, a busy Mexican restaurant or a busy sports bar that has a big patio out back. And if they would allow you to come and sit in with your sandwich board sign or a table sign off to one corner, you would be surprised how many people, would come up. You, of course, would need a big tip jar sitting right next to you. Number two, wineries and microbreweries. These two places have tasting events and they have them quite regularly, especially the microbreweries. It's like, hey, every Tuesday night, come in and test the new beer or whatever. And the nice thing about that is most of these places will allow, for maybe a different vendor or to come in and distract. It's kind of an entertainment thing, to a pop-up shop of some kind to keep the patrons there and to keep them drinking. And of course, what can keep a patron someplace longer than, being in line on a sign-up sheet for a tarot read? So there's another way to go. Number three, you could also suggest to a crystal shop owner, and of course now a CBD oil shop, that they might very well benefit from having a tarot reader there once or twice a week. They could advertise it with their, among their regular advertising, and you would, pay them maybe a small percentage of whatever you make when you're there. I know of one crystal shop owner who would have an event once a month of some type and invite her patrons in. Now, the last one, an example, was an intention jar. So she would provide jar. She would provide a list of all the different things that you could put in the jar and how they would benefit from those items. And they could have, maybe 20 items on the list. They could have 5 for their jar. And then she would have them write out their intention on a little paper and drop it in the jar, and she would charge them a flat fee for that. And she served beverages, and it was kind of a nice little social event. And she would invite tarot readers to come and read at those events, and she wouldn't even charge a percentage or anything. So this is something that you could partner up with. Again, a CBD oil shop is fairly new, and they're not probably used to having events or helping them come up with ideas to bring in people is really good. And again, the nice thing about the wineries and the microbreweries and the shop people like this is that they have their own clientele. They do the advertising for you. So I also like to recommend that you consider signing up for as many nonprofit events as you can. So aside from religious events, you want to contact the event planner and offer to donate all or a part of the proceeds that you get from being at their event to whatever it may be. Animal rescues come in mind to me because they're constantly trying to set up functions to get money to pay for their rescues. But also there are benefits, people that are holding benefits for someone who's had a bad car accident or somebody who needs an operation, or we had a small benefit for a lady in our neighborhood who had a large expensive tree that was precariously hanging over her house and getting ready to fall. And we got together and raised money to pay to take it down for her. So this is something that you can find on Facebook. You can find, at the grocery store, at the library, at a coffee shop, on their bulletin boards. But offer your services. It's a great way to get in a lot of free readings. Okay. So the one venue, the last one I want to talk about, the last idea I have here is Owen Snooty. It's art festivals. They are everywhere. Now, mine was from Minnesota. I'm now, of course, in South Texas. But in Minnesota, they're a little snootier than other places around the country. But they jury, which means you have to be approved by a committee before you're going to be allowed to be there. I put together this wonderful marketing piece. Let me show it to you here. And I went to IBES and I came up with stats. I pulled in all kinds of reasons why and how having somebody like me at their event would be beneficial. And it never went anywhere. I never got anywhere, but that doesn't mean that you can't. But that would be another place to me that would be a great place to try to find. Now, listen, if you can't do anything else, grab a deck of cards and hit a local busy coffee shop or an outside cafe, or again, ask permission to sit and read for free in, somebody's patio bar. And you'll be surprised at how many people will come up and say, oh, wow, if they see the cards laid out and they're curious, they'll come and they'll want a reading. And it's a great place to just hone your chops without having to feel pressure. Now, I want to end this by giving you a little bit of, I don't know, advice or warning about doing shop reading. The most common place to find a tarot reader, and for you, the easiest place to find, other than online, a place to read would be at a metaphysical shop. And this is where several tarot readers, Reiki practitioners, people gather, and they will cover shifts so that there's always somebody in the shop covering all the different hours reading. The shop owners tend to set the price, and they will take 40 to 50% of whatever the take is. Now, traffic can be very spotty in my experience. And newbies are not, you're not given the busy times, you're given the slow time. And so you might sit there for 4 to 6 hours. And of the 12 people that come into that shop to buy something, one might be there for a reading. And for your 4 to 6 hours, you get, $15 out of the $30 the shop charges for that reading. And so I personally, it didn't work for me. I didn't think it was worth the time and effort or my value, the value of my time to be there. I think that, money is not the issue about this. It's all about getting that practice time in. So I think you need to find maybe a busier venue. Now, this might work for you. If it does financially, then, this might be the place for you as a shop reader. But I really think that there are places to go. Just saying. So listen, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up because that's how people are going to find me. Let me tell you about my next video. I'm going to give you my top 10 ways to increase your revenues at these shops. And then the video after that, the last video, I'm going to give you some, I think, good parting advice. So stick around for those and I'll see you on the next video.